Hey everyone, this is Rico Figliolini, host of Peachtree Corners Life, and today with City Manager Brian Johnson, we're going to be doing Prime Lunchtime with City Manager. Lots to talk about. Fusus is one of them. Contract was signed today. That's the crime center in the sky, and we're talking about private enrollment of or private cameras being enrolled into the Gwinnett Police system, into the Fusus system. So we'll be talking a little bit about that and what that means. We'll also be talking about a couple of developments that have come first read at the City Council that are looking to get passed. These are mixed-use developments that you should be aware of. And then we'll talk just a little bit about SPLOST and head off into 4th of July weekend. So let me just bring on board Brian Johnson. Hey, Brian, how are you?
Rico, how are you?
Good, good. It's been feels like a long time since we've actually spoken. Kind of odd that way.
Yeah, I think
Um,
we had to push this a little bit from last time, but yeah, lots to talk about.
yeah, so I'm happy that we're able to get these things done and talk about the things that are going on in the city. So I think the first thing that we should do, we are on a bit of a time schedule here, so that's why I'm trying to keep track here, make sure you go off where you need to, and 4th of July starts tomorrow for a lot of people. I know you're going off yourself, so let's start off first with Fusus. Now, there was a cops program that was hosted by United Peachtree Corners Civic Association recently. We just posted an article on that about a week ago, talking about Fusus and what the crime center in the cloud means to the city of Peachtree Corners and its residents. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what's going on? Because you signed that contract today being Thursday, the 30th. Tell us a little
I
bit
did.
about that.
All right, so Fusus is a Peachtree Corners headquartered company. A great example of some of the innovative companies that we have in Tech Park. And they have created a platform in which cameras owned by any entity, public or private, from any manufacturer can, using their platform, be tied in their platform into the cloud
Hmm.
such that these cameras can be part of the greater system in which the police department can have access to investigate and or prosecute criminals and criminal activity. So how it works is it basically you enroll cameras voluntarily. The owners of each of these cameras can voluntarily enroll their camera in two different levels. The first is merely to register your camera by telling the police department, again, using Fusus platform, that
Right.
I have a camera. This is my name. Here's my contact information. And by doing so, and that's all it is, that is just registration. There's no
Right.
access or anything. But what would happen is,
Location of the camera too,
right,
obviously.
right, sorry, address, yes.
Right.
So let's say I had a Ring video doorbell camera on
Hmm.
my house.
Hmm.
I will register it, giving my address, name, how to contact me. And then that's it. That's where it stops.
Hmm.
But let's say there was some criminal activity that happened in my neighborhood and they wanted to, look and see if they can find whatever. They will then pull up the map. Fusus will pull up the map and it'll say there's these cameras in the area. And why
Hmm.
that's important just at the most basic level is, without knowing that, police officers then have to canvass the neighborhood and potentially go door
Right.
to door and ask, do you have a camera? And if so, can we take a look at the video feed? Well, do you store the data? And can we take a look at it for a particular time frame that we're interested in? That takes time. And oftentimes, investigating a crime, time is not your friend. So by
Hmm.
knowing how to contact me quickly, they could call me or send me an email and say, hey, you register your camera. Can we have access to the video feed for this period of time? And if I'm an agreeable, then I can, using Fusus, just quickly download the data into the cloud, and then Gwinnett PD has access to it, and then they run with it. That's the
So
most
just
basic level.
right, just for clarification, when they say they download the video, that video
I
actually has to be
download it.
as the individual.
Yes, as the owner of the camera, I would
Right.
then, using Fusus's platform, push the data
Okay.
for that
Upload the
particular,
video.
and it's not, yeah, data that was recorded previously that they're
Hmm.
interested in. I put it onto the Fusus platform, and then now
Right.
Gwinnett PD has
Right.
access to it, and they can use it to, and that's each individual time they may need video feed, historical video feed
Hmm.
from me. They have to ask each time, so
Right.
they don't have
There's
access
no.
to it. They're not watching it. They can't
Right.
pull the data themselves. I have to push it to them.
Okay.
So that's a very important point, that if
Yeah.
you do this, and we really encourage people to do this,
Hmm.
because all you're doing is letting Gwinnett PD know that you, at your location, you have a camera, and you
Hmm.
are willing to entertain on a case by case basis whether you would like to push them historical video feed of a period of time if there was,
Right.
if contacted for it. So that's the basic level. There is a more advanced level that is really for commercial establishments. And that is, yes, we not only want you to know that we have cameras, we want you to have access to it in real time. Now, when I say that, I'm not talking about somebody at Gwinnett PD is like in a room watching the camera. But the
Hmm.
real time is that they can pull historical data from the camera whenever they want. And examples of this would be like, let's say the owner of the shopping center that has Dick's Sporting Goods and Target and Publix and all those have cameras in the parking lot. And they want Gwinnett PD to know they have cameras there and to have access to those cameras, so that if,
Hmm.
say, there's a rash of car break-ins in the parking lot,
Hmm.
they immediately can pull the data right there. They don't have to contact the owner and say, hey, we need the data from this period of time. The
Right.
owner is like, look, go for it. We want you to have access to this anytime you want, because the purpose of it is for us to hopefully prevent, but if it does happen, to identify who was doing this so that they can, go out and find them.
Hmm.
And so that's the next level. That's only being offered at the commercial,
Right.
businesses level, not the private homeowner level.
Hmm.
But there are lots of instances where that's great. And a lot of these businesses are like, look, we want you to have it. And all these businesses are going to be like, look, we not only want you to have access to it on the exterior, we have cameras in the interior. And so if there is a break in, we want you to immediately be able to pull that data down so that you
Sure.
can do something about it. But even then, that is a business by business voluntary enrollment
Hmm.
using the Fusus system. But the beauty here is, without Fusus's platform, this would not be possible, because when I say these cameras, Fusus is agnostic as to who made the camera, what it's used for.
Right.
They just have created a way to put it all together. And so Fusus is in a lot of communities. Atlanta is using it. There was a recent article about how
Yeah.
Atlanta PD has those
Hmm.
officers were able to both prosecute a few crimes as well as find a lady who had Alzheimer's who got lost. Her family lost her.
Yeah.
And in the middle of the night, we were able to find her using cameras that they
Hmm.
had access to in, essentially real time. They were able to quickly go back, and the neighborhood she was in, they pulled historical data down that was only
Right.
recorded minutes earlier. And then they found her at a certain location going a certain direction. Then they went to the next camera of somebody who had enrolled, and they pulled that down. Pretty soon they found her
Right.
at a location, dispatched an officer, and found her. So that's the program. It's going to be called Connect Peachtree Corners, or actually it may be
Hmm.
Peachtree Corners Connect. I can't remember, but
I
anyway.
think it's Peachtree Corners Connect.
Okay. And
Thank
so there's going to be a lot of information coming out about that, but that
you.
is the program. And
Hmm. Hmm.
we as a city are enrolling all of our cameras in it. So
Right. And how many
plus,
cameras? How many cameras does the city have?
well, we got 80, a little over 80 that just went into the entire town center area, the parking deck,
Right.
all levels, the entire stuff, thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are going in. All 50 of our license plate reader cameras are going on this.
Hmm.
So The Gwinnett PD will have access to these when they need in the quick period of time they would need it to use. And we're going to certainly encourage businesses to do it at that level, but at the residential homeowner level, it's just the registration of your camera. But
Yeah.
what a huge asset. Even Ring video or any kind of home ones that
Right. It
are
doesn't matter which
outward
one it is.
facing, towards
Yeah.
the road, they
Yeah.
can use that to track vehicle or pedestrian activity in neighborhoods if there are
Yeah.
break-ins. So without knowing who has it, it takes longer for Gwinnett PD to
Yeah,
know.
we're
So
gonna,
we're really encourage people to register their cameras as hey, we have a camera. If you want to access to historical video, we are open to entertaining it on a case by case basis. Here's how to contact us.
and for those listeners that want to know a little bit more, I'm going to be doing a podcast with Fusus's CEO, Chris Lindenau. I think that's his last name.
Linda now, yeah.
Yeah, we're recording that next week, so that'll be out also. So a little bit more in depth with him about the system and how that works and stuff. So if you want to find out a little bit more, you can pick that up
But a
later
great
on.
company. Blowing
Oh
up as
yeah,
far as growth. They've got
yeah,
international police departments that are
yeah.
using this now. Chris is a great great guy, great CEO,
Yeah,
awesome company full of a lot of great people. So we're very proud to say that they are headquartered here in Peachtree Corners, and
that's
and
right.
it's a very good example of the innovative companies that we have here. From their platform to be able to do this to Intuitive's robotic
Hmm.
surgery, suites. I mean, we got some pretty cool stuff
Oh
going on
yeah,
here
yeah. Lo-
in Tech Park and Peachtree Corners.
Lots of good stuff. Lots of things happening in Atlanta Tech Park and a bunch of other places. So we'll be talking more about that as we go on for the next few months. But let's get into also, there's a couple of rezonings that came up, and they were essentially first reads. Um, There were first reads at the town, city council meeting this week. And while we talk about the first one, uh, which is a Sun Court mixed use request for about 170 units, apartment units, single family, on about 10 acres almost. It's going from what's an M1 office rezoning, a request for a mixed use development. It's actually two Sun Court is where it is. So I'm going to show where it is as we talk about this. So let me just clear out a few things here, myself included.
And
Um,
as you pull that up, this is a location on Spalding next to the post office, and it is on a surface parking lot that was put in many years ago when these office buildings needed lots and lots of parking.
right.
And
So,
now they have some, under or unused parking as part of the two
mhm,
Sun Court commercial, complex, and
right.
their application is to activate and transition that surface parking lot, which is not really needed anymore, and develop it.
Yeah, interestingly enough, the what I'm going to show also is a street view map. It probably shows it a little better. So on the right side, you have Peachtree Parkway, and this is Spalding Drive. In that yellowish green area is where the property actually is, roughly.
Right.
And right next door to it is the what is that? The
Post
post office, then the library going to the right, and then the
fire
fire
station.
department. So that's where they're looking to do it. Um, the type of the type of property is they're talking about would look similar to this. This is like almost like an innovation type loft look is what they're aiming for. Um,
Enrico, if you go back one slide real quick, back
sure,
to the aerial,
sure. Let me pull that back up here.
go
Yep.
backwards one. All right, right there. If you look at that part of the yellow that touches Spalding,
Yes.
that right there, which is the entrance to Spalding, and Tucson Court, but right across the street, up above there, is Intuitive.
That's right.
And so their, campus is going in there, and that's the current building that they've had. And then, of course, right behind it, or you know, um,
Hmm.
upwards north of it on the map is where they're putting in the assembly area. Yeah, that white
Right.
up there. So this Two Sun Court site is very much oriented towards providing housing for the 1,500 jobs being created by
Right.
Intuitive. So I just wanted to
It,
make sure that everybody, this is an Intuitive leaning residential, mixed use development. That's why they're putting it at the location is they're
mhm.
leaning towards being housing for Intuitive.
And the look of the place. For anyone that's that would it is more. It's a loft look. It's a type of look that you'd find in any city that has renovated factories and lofts and areas. It has that innovation, that industrial look, if you will, to a degree. Um, Here's
The
some look and feel to what they want to do, I believe. Uh,
And keep going. Go to the slide that
There's
has
another one.
where the cars would come in up underneath the building.
I don't know if I have that actually.
Oh, really?
Um, yeah, I don't know if I took that, but I know what you're talking about. I took some innovation screen grabs because I thought they were interesting.
Okay, yeah, you didn't put the whole packet in then. Okay, that's fine.
No, 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 God knows.
Well, the reason I wanted to show that is so there is a card. I don't want to say card drop, but there's a way to get into the structured parking there and kind of a lobby to the development that's under the building. They don't have a
Yes,
lot of
yes,
space, but
right,
there also is a potential that there is even some of the units are kind of tapped to be specific, um, almost like executive units for visiting surgeons. Because remember, Intuitive is creating 16,000 overnight hotel rooms
hmm
stays per year in visiting surgeons that will be coming to this campus to learn how to use the Da Vinci device. And so, there's certainly, temporary need for that. So yeah, there's going to be potentially some of these units kind of tapped towards being that. But yeah,
right.
anyway, that's the development is 170 units right there.
Right, and the interesting part to me, I guess, what grabbed my attention is a bit of what they are looking to do there, um, and which seems to be what the city now is sort of requiring or suggesting to developers to include. Which a lot of it is, for example, in this particular case, what they're going to do is they're going to have smart home tech in each of the units, bike racks, e-scooter corral. 10% of their parking is EV recharging stations. They're using LED lighting throughout the complex. License plate readers integrated in the real-time crime center that we just talked about. 5G ability to put 5G technology on the rooftops, access to that. The apartments would be individually metered because I guess at some point that could lead to co-op or condo
Yeah,
equity
the
selling.
individually metering part means that at any point you could technically make anything be an ownership or equity product versus a rental. You can't do that if the entire building's metered and then there's one,
Right,
one developer or one owner who's then turning around and charging the tenants. So that's why
right.
we're requiring that is allows flexibility in the future to go between rental and equity.
hmm And it also talks about the aesthetics of what it would look like. So having the ability to, I guess, part of what they're talking about is even having like outside oversized murals on part of the building. Um, and as we flip through the pictures, you saw, people would see large window settings, very more industrial, but you would find it, like I said, in town, in Buckhead, Brookhaven, type of look to it. Now coming to Peachtree Corners to a sense. Um, so there's a lot more that I didn't touch on in the conditions and stuff, but way more sophisticated than development applications that I've seen before. Um, Better looking, better.
Well, and Rico, you and I have talked about this, and you have certainly had some influence on it as well. Is look, if we're going to get a lot of multifamily interest here, which means we're a little bit more in the driver's seat
Mhm.
as a municipality than you would sometimes see elsewhere, where they're really like, "Oh, we need it, please, please build it." We're a little bit more like, well, you better really, blow our hair back, on this thing, to make it. And so it puts us in a position where we can require some things that you wouldn't be able to elsewhere. And you and I have talked about it, and I've certainly taken some of them to heart. And as a result, our conditions list on these kind of things have evolved and really expanded to require things in these units that make them, beyond your just normal run of the mill vanilla conventional
Oh,
units.
yeah, and I'm glad the city's moving that way. I'm sure I'm not the only one that talked about doing this. Although over the last 2 years, I know I've had conversations with you about this, and even other city council people that even looking at what's quote a mixed use, and then all of a sudden that's a mixed use, but there's only 4,000 square foot retail, just to make it mixed use, was kind of ridiculous. And I know that the city leadership has changed that. So I mean,
Yep.
even in this particular one, there's about 5,000 square feet of retail mentioned, that there would be upwards of that, which could mean several, restaurant or one restaurant or several retail in there. So this way, it's actually a real retail mixed use versus I just put a coffee shop down there and we're going to call that mixed use. So I'm glad to see that. I'm also glad to see that trail systems are continuing to be part of this development process, that everywhere that there's a development that can have a trail system included is having it. So
We've
that's something
become
else.
pretty bullish on that, on the trail system. We are starting to, our master plan, our 11 plus miles of trails, like the
Mhm.
exact location and how we do it, is starting to really kind of coalesce more than it did in the past, where we've now
Yep.
started to see exactly where we are going to weave it through some of these developments. And as a result, we're requiring some of them to have the trail, part of our trail, be part of their property. In some context, it could be as simple as they deed us, you know, the property so that we can
Right.
construct it. And in other cases, we require them to construct it as part of their development. So we're starting to piece it together, and I think this trail system is going to come to life a lot quicker than maybe we thought it could have, even as recent as a year ago.
Yeah. Sounds like. I mean, all these applications, I'm constantly seeing trail systems as part of these applications. So the city's doing a great job in pushing that. I think the next development was also a first read at this past city council meeting. That was what is labeled as a town center mixed use office building. Let me bring that on. Although it's adjacent to the town center in a way, right? I think the store that it backs up to is really Sprouts, and this is owned by Piedmont Bank. I think the
Correct. It's
property.
on the Piedmont Bank parcel. If you know that, intersection there with Medlock and Peachtree Parkway,
Hmm.
their Piedmont Bank sits way back off the road.
Right.
And so they're using some of that property, the one facing Medlock, much closer to on that part, but they're going to, develop part of that next to their bank.
Yeah, so that is actually behind the bank. So if you're looking at this illustration, the part that's near Peachtree Parkway is the bank part, and then behind this says mixed use. Hopefully that's clear.
Yep.
Um, so that again is one of those properties that is it has an innovative look, if I can put that up, and they're all trying to, which is good. I mean, so this is the look that they have for that building. Again, a bit industrial, right? Looking. Um, this is the renderings that they had with the plans, with the plans that they put into place, that they applied actually. So in this particular one has I think a rooftop bar restaurant or something like that.
It does. Now, I will tell you, you're going to probably get a little bit more discussion between council and the applicant on the architectural components of this than you would in other properties, because it is a little bit more of a departure. It is a little bit more, they're trying to attract a younger crowd.
Mm-hmm.
Rome,
Mm-hmm.
co-working space, it's high end, and
Right.
so. But I think there's certainly some architectural components that you're going to facade stuff that council's going to potentially get in. There's been some good discussions about things, including like maybe
Mm-hmm.
make the exterior stair component to be more in keeping with the pedestrian bridge, because it's right there, and
Mm-hmm.
making that tie in there, and there's some other stuff, but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's what the submittal looks like. We just haven't had the conversation with council yet.
Right. I mean, this again, this was a first read. This was something that the city council, planning commission rather, put together, submitted. So, and there's I think certain conditions that they included there as well. But yeah, I mean, I personally don't mind that look. I know that North American Properties has talked philosophically about um, storefronts at the forum looking different from each other versus they're all looking the same. They'd like to see individualized looks of these, similar to what you see when you go to Avalon or Atlanta Station, where every business has its own individualized look. I don't think it's so bad to have something like a Rome next necessarily like that look, but it is a process, right?
It is,
Um, so we don't want everything all over the place, but
right,
um,
but you
but
also
it's
don't want cookie cutter either. You're right.
correct. I mean, listen, the forum looked fine 20 years ago. Doesn't looks if we had to do it over again, would we want it to look that way now? The
Right.
conditions sort of drove that look because that's what we wanted back then.
Yep.
Um, don't think we'd be looking for the same thing now, right? So it's a bit different. So those two are going to come back to city council next month
Yep.
um, for the second read and actually for voting on. I think at that point,
Yeah,
right?
there will be
Because it's
consideration at that meeting.
okay. There was another development that was being considered that was tabled that came up, and that's a Delwig mixed use request, and that's about 20 acres across from Corners Wine. That has been tabled before, I believe, and now it's tabled to mid-July. Um, what's going on with that one? What maybe I can even bring up a
So that's a
picture
mixed
of one.
use. That's a part of where CarMax is, right on Peachtree Parkway at the
Mm-hmm.
intersection with engineering. So they're combining with the CarMax building. And then if you turn into engineering and start going around there off Peachtree Parkway to the right,
Mm-hmm.
they're proposing to demo an existing office building and put in residential. And at the very corner of Peachtree Parkway and Engineering Drive, it's another uh, underutilized, you could almost say unutilized
Mm-hmm.
surface parking lot that was associated with the CarMax building back in the day. But
CarMax, right?
there's not necessarily the need for that much surface parking anymore, the way things have gone. And so they're looking to activate it. It's been tabled because there's definitely some yet to be determined variables of it. The first one
Mm-hmm.
is, they did not have control of the corner of Peachtree Parkway and Engineering Drive completely.
Oh, oh, okay.
CarMax's corporate office had a right of way, or not right of way, easement access on the site, so they could have wanted to use it for parking, so they had to work through that. And then there's still some
Mm.
unknowns about the corner. They came in the first time with a boutique hotel,
Right, I
and they
saw that.
no longer are able to do that. So they came back with a, as they called it, a destination tenant of the site,
Yeah.
but they were unable to provide any details about that. They
Mm.
proposed to fall back if they couldn't get something in that, quote, destination type of use, that they would fall back and create a trailhead amenity because they have a trail going through there.
Okay.
A lot of uncertainty. There was conversation about how many units they are putting in, a little over three, or requesting to put in a little over 300.
Yeah.
And there would be apartments or a rental product. And council did talk about can there be an equity component to it? And so it was able to give them an opportunity to provide more detail in some of those areas that I just brought up.
Okay.
Council is considering these things very carefully. If you remember last month, we had another
Yeah.
mixed use at the corner of Spalding and Peachtree Parkway that was
Mm-hmm.
denied.
Right.
That was 300 units that were denied. This one's another 300 units, and council's very carefully considering
Yeah.
these on based on location, density,
Right.
how, number of units, the reason why it's there, what is it supporting, and so they're being very diligent to their credit, and so there's just some more information they needed, and
Mm-hmm.
the applicants were like, okay, give us a chance to come back, so that's where
Mm-hmm.
that's at right
No, that's great that they're doing that, and they're doing the right job by doing that. And so I'm proud that they're not, just looking at these things on face value. Obviously, if
now.
all
Right.
the information's not there, it's not going to work. Um, and as these things come up, and there will be more mixed use applications coming up as we go. I noticed on one of them, and I don't recall which one it was, but if they don't do the development, it actually converts back to an M1 in 4 years, in 48 months. 48 months, I think it was. So glad they're doing that also. Sort of forces, because a lot of these rezonings sometimes, as we probably know, starts off with one company, and then another developer takes over. So it's not even the initial people that actually do. Um, they're showing these renderings and stuff, and this is what they want to do, and then all of a sudden another developer comes in because they've already done the hard work of rezoning, and then the history of those things sometimes is that they come back to want to adjust the rezoning or
Yep.
adjust their site plan. So I think even more, if they can continue to keep these developers that want these conversions to their renderings as close as possible. Now, I know some of them have those conditions in there that they have to stay as close to their renderings and site plans as possible. But to make sure
We're
that they do
also,
that,
I mean, we have conditions that, yes, they have to be built in, I think the term is, reasonable accordance with the, submitted exhibits,
right? Yeah.
type of thing. Cause it's hard to get exact, and they are renderings, but yes,
Right.
no departure. We're also, we're getting these things on the mixed use where one of the uses is you know, this really cool one, almost like it started with the Dillweg, the boutique hotel. And,
Right.
that's one where, cities like, ooh, yes, we would like that. That's a good one.
Right.
And then they're like, okay, but we also have a residential component.
Mm-hmm.
It's a mix of uses. And so when council's approving them, we are also having requirements where the more appealing use of a mixed use has
Mm-hmm.
to be go through the permitting process before the residential. And that's to avoid somebody
Right.
coming in and getting it rezoned and having a
Right.
residential component. They jump on that really quick,
Right.
make money there, and then when it gets to the other uses, they come back and they're like, "Oh, we couldn't do it. We couldn't find a
Right.
user."
Right.
They'll
And that will
declare
happen.
bankruptcy, and
Yeah.
then they fold up the LLC they created. And so we're saying, you got to build the other stuff first,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can do the residential if you want to do this.
I noticed that, and I'm glad the city's doing that because I've been in this county long enough to know that there are constantly developers that do that. They will want one thing, but they're really needing those apartments. and then they'll come back and they'll ask for all sorts of modifications
Yes,
or,
and they whine, and
stuff.
oh, we can't do it, and you
Right,
got to help
right,
us. And look, we get it. Sometimes that happens, but that's the risk of being in that business.
that's right,
We're like, look, you want to do it, fine. If you
right.
ultimately get approved with multiple uses, and one's the multifamily, we know
Hmm.
that's where you make money. We know
Hmm.
that's why you want to do it. So if you want to do this, you
Right,
got to do that last because we want the other more appealing ones first.
right,
And so
right.
we're sequentially requiring it. So, it has certainly dissuaded some app developers from applying when they find out that that's how we're, running things, and that's good. It weeds out the the
Yeah,
more riskier projects and the more in the shadier developers.
yeah. No, for sure. Everyone's out there to make money. So, the last thing that we want to talk about is that SPLOST that's coming up in November. That I think that we should all make sure that when we go out vote, that we should vote that penny back in. Um,
Yes,
it's not a penny that's new. Or an addition.
correct.
It's a penny that's just being revoted back in again. It's a 6-year plan. For the city of Peachtree Corners, it's going to raise between 50 to $55 million in revenue that we can use over the next 6 years for a variety of things, including sidewalks, road, um, pedestrian bridge idea over the Chattahoochee River could be a component where that money is spent. Why don't you tell us a little bit more, though, about some of the projects that SPLOST is currently paying for quickly and what projects they may pay for in the next 6 years that we're
We
aware
did
of?
a good job of reminding everybody we're currently paying this penny.
Right.
And in November, Gwinnett County's intention, with the full support of the cities, is intending to put it back on the ballot for renewal for another 6 years. For Peachtree Corners residents specifically, I would remind them that one of the many reasons that we are the second largest municipality in Georgia with no city property tax is
Mm-hmm.
because we do have SPLOST. It allows us to do things that we could not if SPLOST was not voted. A lot of our
Right.
resurfacing of existing streets and sidewalk expansions come out of this money. But then we also have special projects. Some of the projects we've done with the current penny that in revenue we're getting from that SPLOST, the widening of Spalding between Holcomb Bridge and Winters Chapel,
Right.
the roundabout at Peachtree Corner Circle in Medlock,
Mm-hmm.
the Bush Road slip lane intersection that is at Bush Road and Medlock.
Mm-hmm.
Those are some of the projects. We constructed the parking deck at the town center with SPLOST money. So those are some of the projects that we did. In addition to, again, we're using it for the annual, things like our annual allotment for sidewalk expansion, trail expansion, and
Right.
resurfacing our city streets. So
Right.
it is a
Right.
very important revenue stream for us. And I would, highly encourage, Peachtree Corners residents, especially to vote it, to
Right.
approve it.
Cool. So that's in November. So definitely, when you're out there voting, definitely give this a yes vote because it does pay for a lot of stuff. That if the city didn't have that money, that we'd be looking at a millage rate probably or something to be able to do that, or not be able to do that. So um, cool. So we've covered, I think, everything that we needed to at this point. There's certainly more things coming on the plate over the summer and next few months. Um, but I want to thank Brian. Thank you, Brian, for being on with me. I know you have a busy week because you're going to be heading out soon on vacation. So I know you have to get going.
And,
Um,
well, and the last thing I will throw out is, as we hinted our podcast here, I'm getting my phone's getting blown up by the director of the festival.
okay.
So there
Yes.
must be something out there that I need to call him about. But just to remind everybody that Peachtree Corners Festival is this weekend. And we've
Yes.
got a
This.
lot of cool stuff. Concert Friday night.
Yeah.
And you got the proverbial stuff from the cars to lots of different food and other booths, the kids' toys, and then of course the town green. I'm
Hmm.
not sure. I don't think the new playground could be open in time. We really pushed
Yeah,
hard.
yeah,
Supply
I don't see
chain
it.
issues just kept us from being able to get it in, but it is a
Yeah.
really cool expansion of that is happening. But we do have some playground equipment that still can be
Hmm.
used that are out there, and then we got other stuff being brought in to the
Yep.
town green for the kids to play in. So I encourage everybody this weekend to come to the town
Yep.
center and experience all this. The section of Peachtree Corner Circle between Peachtree Parkway and Medlock will be closed, and
Yep.
that run of road will be full of booths and antique cars and other things. So come out and have a good time.
Yeah, it's going to be great. A bit of a configuration change from last year. So
Yes.
check out if you go to livinginpeachtreecorners.com, you can check out the article we have there. The map is actually in the current issue of Peachtree Corners magazine. So if you guys should have gotten this in the mail like a few weeks ago. The map is here. It's also online, so check that out. Just a lot of things going on this weekend. Fourth of July would be great. Brian, again, thank you. I also want to thank EV Remodeling for being our sponsor of this podcast and the podcast that we're doing. In fact, they are a sponsor, as is My Secret Garden, with the giveaway that we're doing. It's the Curb Appeal Refresh giveaway that we're running. There's about $1,300 in prizes. Check out how to get into that giveaway at livinginpeachtreecorners.com and participate, and you might be a winner of one of those $1,000 grand prize or $100 a week that we're giving away. So check it out. Livinginpeachtreecorners.com is where you can enter. Check out our social media as well. Thank you, Brian.